Hello, I'm Titanic Spider, and I'm back with another Treaty 40 boom guide. Today I will be going over the Dutch boom guide that can get you upwards of 210,000 or higher score at 40 minutes. On screen you will see two variations of a basic 40-minute deck. On the left, I went with the Stone Masons with a 65% build speed increase to set up your forward base faster, as well as the Age 4 Team Cohorn Mortars card for increased mortar damage for the team. And on the right, I have the Age 1 Stadhouder shipment to increase hero damage as well as give you an Explorer dog. As well as the Age 2 shipment Extensive Fortifications, which allows for twice the amount of towers to be built on the front lines. If you find yourself in natives, this Dutch natives deck isn't too much different from the two decks I just showed you. You would just remove a couple of the four shipments I just mentioned to include at least the Age 3 Native Warriors card to reduce the natives cost, and if you'd like a little extra overpop during the fight, you can take the Age 4 Infinite shipment of the 17 Carib allies as well. Let's get straight into the boom guide. Unlike other civs, Dutch uses their coin to build their villagers, and they also start with an envoy. So you want to, as soon as your villagers are done gathering, you want to send 4 of your villagers over to coin, and the rest of the new villagers over to wood. You're going to want to put one of your starting villagers onto food. You can use this envoy to scout along with using your explorer to scout and gather treasures as well. You want to send 4 or 5 villagers over to coin, and all the new villagers are going to go to wood. You're going to use one villager to build the house as well as the marketplace, and then send that one to wood. You should only need one villager on food for the time being, but all new villagers you're going to want to send over to wood. As soon as you have enough wood and gold, you're going to want to go ahead and get hunting dogs, as well as you're going to want to get your wood chopping upgrade as well, since you don't need the food to build your villagers, since it's all coin for Dutch. The first shipment you're going to want to send is going to be your food trickle. Again, as soon as you can get hunting dogs, go ahead and get hunting dogs. You won't be getting your gold mine upgrades from the market till later on around Age 3. At this point, you're going to want to split your villagers between food and wood, mostly wood because you have the food trickle, and you're going to want to get 3 banks built before you go into Age 2. You're also going to need to build an extra house before Age 2 because you're going to be aging up with a total of 23 villagers. The reason I'm having 3 villagers sent to the back is because I want to keep the gold mine. I want to keep my banks towards the back, and you're going to want to build the banks with 2 or 3 villagers because you want them up as soon as possible. As soon as you can build the bank, go ahead and get it built. And then once that's done, you're going to be able to move around some of your settlers off of the gold mine. Next shipment you want to send is exotic hardwood for faster wood gathering, since you have the food trickle and you're going to need wood for both the banks as well as the house that you're going to need to build. So after this bank is built, you can go ahead and move 2 of your villagers over to wood. Continue to send all new villagers over to wood as well. Go ahead and get that house built. You don't want to aim for another bank before the house, because you don't want to find yourself stuck with an idle TC where you have no population space. Now that that's set up, you can go ahead and move 1 of your villagers off of wood over to food. If you find yourself over gathering wood over food, go ahead and switch a couple more off of wood over to food as well. You can even shift some villagers off of coin if you feel comfortable enough with the 1 bank. At this point, now that you got 2 banks set up, you're going to split your villagers between wood and food to get the 3rd bank, and then you're going to switch most of them over to food to get into age 2 as quickly as possible. Again, you only need to get a total of 23 villagers queued up, so at this point, once you got all 23 like that, you can just leave it as is. Get the 3rd bank set up, and switch most of your villagers over to food. You want to get into H2 as soon as possible. Now that the 3rd bank is set up, you're going to move all your villagers over to food. Go ahead and age up with 400 wood. You're going to now want to set a couple of villagers over to wood, because you're going to want to get a 4th bank built in the process of going into age 2. You can go ahead and send 1 bank around them if you'd like while you wait, but you want to get that 4th bank built in the process of going to age 2. If done smoothly enough, you should be able to go directly from age 2 into age 3. So now that you have the 4th bank built, you can still keep about 5 or 6 villagers on wood, because you're going to want to get the church built, as well as you're still going to need to build more banks afterwards. Go straight into age 3 with age up very fast. Make sure you gather the wood as soon as you age up. Switch more villagers off of food and onto the wood, because you're gonna need to get a total of 1,000 wood to get 2 more TCs. As soon as you age up, try and get both TCs down as quickly as possible. You're also going to want to, after you get the TC, you're going to want to get steel traps, as well as you're going to want to build a church so you can get the church upgrade. Still, you should not need to put any villagers onto gold, as your banks will do pretty much all of the work for you. Again, once you have enough to build the church, make sure you get the church down. You're going to want to focus between food and wood with your villagers in order to get the rest of your banks out. You should get the 2 bank shipments for extra banks, as well as the extra upgrade from the church shipment should give you another 2. The church shipment should be free for the extra banks as well. So make sure you go ahead and split your villagers between the food and wood, because you want to get all those banks built as quickly as you can. You should be able to get a total of 9 built. Go ahead and get the food upgrade as well as the wood upgrade while you're in age 2. That should help you get the banks built as quickly as possible.
Klaar. Jager, jager. Commando, jager, jager.
You also are gonna aim for a total of all 60 villagers before you age up, because you're gonna want to go into age 4 with the viceroy to get the extra 5 villagers for a max of 60 villagers for Dutch. After you get all 9 banks built, you can also build the saloon. And once you have all that done, you can switch your villagers. You can switch your villagers from wood over to food and gold to prepare to go into age 4 as well as age 5. You can keep a couple on wood if you want, as it'll help you build houses, since you only need the 60, but you will then be overpopped and need a little more space. Now at this point, you're going to save the rest of your shipments for your factories, as well as the tulip speculation. You can also begin getting the placer mine upgrades before you switch your villagers over to gold. At this point, all you're trying to do is to gather for it to go straight into age 5 from age 4. So you shouldn't really need any more villagers on wood, and you can split your villagers between food and gold. Mostly food, since you do have those banks in the saloon, but you should be able to get enough resources to go straight into age 5. It is okay to keep some villagers on wood, because you will want to begin building markets as well once you feel you have enough resources to go from age 4 into age 5. If timed correctly, you can queue up age 4 while the other 2 TCs have 3 to 3.5 villagers queued up, and you should be able to go straight into age 4 and not miss out on your 5 free villagers. Again, you're gonna want to build markets because you're gonna want a total of 5 markets. But again, keep an eye on your food and gold. You're gonna want to make sure you gather enough gold to go directly into age 5. So if you have to, make sure you move some around. As soon as you hit age 4, go straight into age 5 with the 2,000 gold shipment. Send both factories before you send tulip speculation. And at this point, all you really needed to do is get enough gold to get your mercantilism, and as well as build. You want to get about 40 to 50 villagers on mills and the rest on wood. As soon as your factories come out, you're going to want to set them directly to wood. You want to make sure you send... After you get the tulip speculation going, you want to set up all your food upgrades, as well as you also want to make sure you have enough wood as well as food going into age 5 to get the capital building, as well as the gold upgrade from the capital building, because that upgrade will allow you to get an extra 2 banks for a total of 11 banks. So that's going to be very important that you get that built as quickly as possible. Built and upgraded as quickly as possible. Again, both factories come out are going to be set to wood. As soon as you hit age 5, go ahead and get that capital built. Get a couple of villagers over to gather the gold. First shipment you want to send is the gold upgrade, followed by the wood upgrade. Since you don't need the immigrants, since you're capped out at 65 total settlers, and you're going to then begin building your... You want to get your mills building, but make sure you have enough food and wood to build the 2 banks that you can get as soon as your capital upgrade is ready. As soon as you get that upgrade, get two groups of 3 or 4 to build the banks, and then get them set back to gathering resources. Again, you want both factories set to wood. At this point, you really don't need any villagers on the gold mine, as your banks should be doing all the work that you need. At this point, you're going to want to get about 40 villagers, 40 to 45 villagers onto food, and then the rest are going to be on wood. Now you want to get your villagers focused on the trees on the exterior of your build circle to ensure that you can clear up space. And at this point, your boom is pretty much done. You're going to want to begin setting up your forward base, getting your upgrades, as well as just preparing to make sure you have all your upgrades done. You will also want to get several estates built and upgraded before you go into fight, as Dutch is a very gold heavy civ. You're not going to need to switch villagers off of food till about a minute or 2 before the fight. But you're still going to want to switch off onto gold, or most of your villagers onto gold, so you're going to want to make sure you have the estate upgrades ready. The main fighting units for Dutch are going to be your halberdiers, your skirmishers, your melee cav hussar, as well as your reuters, and the horse artillery howitzer, as well as the culverines. You will not be needing pikemen, as your main army is going to consist of mostly skirmishers, about 10 to 15 reuters, and about 5 to 10 hussars, and then heavy on the artillery. There's not much left to do, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video. All you got to do from here until the fight is to make sure you get all your upgrades, your forward base, now that we pretty much have all the upgrades and we got all our villagers situated where we need them, we can begin to start sending out our starting army. You're going to want between 4 and 6 culverines, whatever your preference is, and depending on what you scouted on the opponent's military, you're going to want about 4 to 6 horse artillery. You're going to want about 15 to 20 reuters, and then you're going to want another 5 to 10 hussars, and then depending on your opponent, you're going to want to start with skirmishers or halberdiers, but we're just going to send the skirmishers for now. Obviously, in a real match, you're going to want to hold off on sending any of your military till you have scouted your opponents, but I'm going to go ahead and send them now, as this is just a guide. Unlike other civilizations, however, you're gonna need your envoys to build your native embassies if you use any native military. Once you have all that out, once you have full queued up, you're going to want to go ahead and come back to your church, and you're going to send both your overpop, and you should have a total of about 270 military units altogether. I'm not going to bother and organize these, but you'll be able to see just how large the starter army of Dutch is and why they are very difficult to deal with. $263 total units. Look at this massive start army that you can start with. This is why you can go more heavily on the artillery as if you would like, If you're playing 1v1 on Andes like this, you would normally have your military buildings behind the walls, as well as you would start with a couple of mortars, because as you can see, this is the halfway mark. My opponent could easily take out my starting buildings. So in a 1v1, you could easily start with a couple of mortars, but aren't absolutely necessary. But you would probably want a couple extra culverines to deal with the opponent's artillery. At this point, we still have another 4 minutes to go. Just go ahead and make sure you get all your upgrades. Continue to keep your villagers on food up until about the last minute or 2 minutes, because you want to gather as much food as possible before the fight starts, since you do not have any of your eco upgrades for gold.
Hallo? Timmerman, boerin. Klaar. Timmerman. Hallo?
At this point, there's no more upgrades, no more building that you're going to require. So if you find yourself with limited space, you can go ahead and delete the capital, or you can delete the marketplace since you don't really need those during the fight. Once you have all your upgrades done, if you're going to need more space, again, you can delete your arsenal once that's done. You don't want to delete the church, as it does provide a slow experience trickle, which will add up later on. Your villagers are still on food and wood, since your gather rate on both of those are going to be higher than your gather rate on the estate, since you don't have any of the shipments for the gold upgrades. But before the fight, you're still going to want to switch your villagers over to the gold, since Dutch is heavier on gold than they are on food for just about all of their units except for the Hussar. The Hussar should be the only one that's heavier on food than gold. As you can see, everything is heavier on gold, and your artillery is only wood and gold and not food. So before the fight, you're going to want to make sure you switch as many as you can over to gold. And at that point, every new shipment you want is going to be your gold upgrades before any more of your military upgrades. So at around the minute to minute and a half mark, go ahead and begin switching some villagers off of wood as well as off of food to start gathering on gold. Make sure you keep a couple of villagers towards the front as well. This way you can begin building a closer base if you are on a larger map. Although you'll be gathering gold at a much lower rate than food or wood, you're still going to want to make sure you have a decent sized starting gold. This way you don't run out at the very start of the fight. Once you do start getting those upgrades, you can start switching more over, but keep an eye on your gold, as you're going to want to be able to bounce back and forth between food and gold as needed. But as you can see, here's a starting army. You can go heavier on artillery with Dutch, and you're going to want to go heavier on artillery with Dutch, since you will have a much stronger pushing presence than most other civs, as you'll have only 65 settlers and far larger population space. As you can see, depending on the treasures you get, as well as how smooth you go from age 3, 4, and 5, you could easily get between 210k to 220k.